Welcome to the very first episode of the OC podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valera. I am joined by my co-host, Kenzie Ricky. How are you today?
I am so good. This is something I've been looking forward to since the OC aired.
The funny thing about it is, okay, so before we dive into what we're going to do every week, I want to talk about kind of the idea of what happened. It was a text message and said, hey, the OC is kind of like on HBO Max type thing. And then it was like, we should do a podcast. And then it was like, no, seriously, no, really.
It's so good.
It is, and it's so great. And basically, like I said, the conversation started very quickly, turned into a podcast idea. We're both huge fans of the OC. So we decided what we're going to do is each week we're going to watch an episode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break it down for you. And how we're going to break it down, I'm just going to give you an intro, the episode name, the synopsis. But we're going to review the episode. We're going to give you our favorite quote or moment from the show. We're going to give you our thoughts on who the MVP of the episode is. And then, of course, we're going to end the show with Kenzie's OC fun facts, which I'm pretty excited about, where she just kind of dived around a little bit and found us some OC quotes. So I'm excited about this. I don't know about you. I'm super excited. So let's go ahead and start with, obviously, the pilot. The synopsis of the show was about a troubled teen boy's life is forever changed when, upon landing in jail for a crime his brother committed, a public defender from Orange County, California, decides to take him into his home. Obviously, the stars of the show: Peter Gallagher, Kelly Rowland, Ben McKenzie, Misha Barton, Adam Brody, and Rachel Bilson are kind of our main characters. We have Sandy, Kristen Cohen, Seth Cohen. We have who am I missing? And Summer Roberts, obviously, and Marissa Cooper. So, first initial thoughts of the episode.
I was obsessed that Sandy appeared 1 minute and 29 seconds in. Like, you are not like, even though it starts out in Chino, like, they're like, okay, you can't go too long without Sandy. So it's literally like, I wrote down the timestamp he popped in. But like, I love that the show just starts like right from the beginning. There's no like trying to give you a feel for the character. You're just like plopped into Ryan's life, and then you're immediately plopped into the Cohen's life. And I understood their world because of the way they like wrote it and the sets, and it was just good from the get-go. Like, I knew what I was in for, but I never knew what was coming.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like the first part of the thing, you're right. It's like you're not they don't introduce you to this beautiful world of the OC. They introduce you to the broken version of it first, which then introduces us into the Cohen's life, and it's really a good dynamic, and it really sets the tone very, very early, right? Some TV shows, it gives you have a long time period before you actually understand what's going on. Very early, very fast. What I loved is we go from him breaking the law, I guess Ryan breaking the law there, right, to then switching to this very raw and serious moment between Sandy and Ryan, right? We're kind of in the jail. We're like in that moment. And I loved it. You know what I mean? Because it was like, Daddy Sandy just being him, you know what I mean? And it's like
the best.
It really is. Like it's so hard not to just, the guy oozes charisma, right?
And it's so comforting. Like,
right?
I think if it was anybody else other than Peter Gallagher, I would be like a little like, what is this guy up to? But he just truly means as well as he comes off. Like, he doesn't mean it in any other kind of way. He's not judging Ryan. No. He like immediately realizes Ryan is smart. And he's like, just because you're not going to school and having good grades doesn't mean you're not smart. Like, what? Literally 2 minutes into the episode, he's like, are you thinking about your future? I'm like, why are you trying to get this guy in college? You're in a jail. But it's like, that's who Sandy is.
Exactly. It's just his personality. He's when he's at home, he's the dad, right? But as a lawyer, he's that dad as well, right? You know what I mean? He was very receptive. He saw a kid that's broken, right? He saw a kid that doesn't have a great home life, or knows that he doesn't have a great life, home life. And all of a sudden, just like the flip of a coin, was just like ready to embrace him just like he was Seth. And that's what makes it really, it felt real, right? You know what I mean? I think that's the most important thing that I thought about when I watched the first episode was like, wow, like that was like real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can relate to, maybe not with the situation, but you can relate to the idea of what kind of transpired in the first episode.
Exactly.
So kind of switching, obviously we have a lot of different ports where we hit a little bit more meat to the bone. Obviously, the first meeting between Seth and Ryan is quite comic. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny. You know what I mean?
I wrote down exactly, like, it's so funny. He's like, where is it? He, like, they meet and they're just playing video games, and they're like, it's really awkward and quiet, and then they're playing video games and they're both like screaming and like just typical like teenage boys playing video games. And then Sandy's like, why are you guys not outside? Like, it's such a dad move. She's like, you're teenagers, why aren't you outside? Like, what would you be doing? Like, just in the yard? Like, it's so good.
It is. It's so funny because at that particular moment, Seth finally like had that brother. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it was like a very
At the beginning,
cool feeling.
like, I think like the first thing that Trey, his brother, which is by the way the old Trey, he's only in 2 episodes. He is recasted later.
Oh,
So
fun fact already. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. But Trey's like, don't say your older brother never showed you anything. And he's like, I'm your brother and look what I'm doing for you. And he's like stealing a car and taking Ryan with him. Whereas this was like a real brother relationship, even though they're not legally brothers. Like, they're just like in the same house. But it was more of a brother relationship you want versus the brother relationship Ryan actually had.
Right. It's instant chemistry.
Instant.
Right.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things that it has to work, right? This is the dynamic of your show. We knew that obviously of watching it before, but going into it as a new viewer, like the first time you watch it, like you see that igniting between two people that don't know who each other are, but also really love the idea of having that brotherly love time for playing video games with your brother. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't,
it's
like,
just a normal, like, this is what we're doing on a Saturday or whatever
right.
day it is.
You're not stealing cars. You're just kind
hanging
of,
out,
I know, yeah.
being in a room together.
I love the fact that Seth kind of just kept on, not poking fun, but kind of like bringing up the idea of him, stealing the car.
He's like, do you want to play Grand Theft Auto? You can steal cars. It's so fun. He's like, I mean, it's not cool. He's like, not that it's not cool. I like that Seth is just Seth from the very beginning, because I know they write him as like such a nerd or like nerd quote quote, and but he's always like he's always Seth. He's never like behind, however uncomfortable he feels. He's always saying like a Seth related comment. And it's not like they evolved Seth over time. Like, he's just Seth from the very beginning. And I love it because, like, if they always write nerds, quote unquote, to be really quiet and timid and like scared to be themselves. But Seth is just like always himself. Like, he's always talking, even when he shouldn't be. And it's so perfect. Like, it's so funny to go back and watch it from the beginning because you see he's always on. Like, it's not like a over time.
It was a different characterization of that idea of the nerd, like you said, because he's always saying something. But the thing about he's always honest too, right? You know what I mean? He's always, even later on in the episode, kind of when he's had a few to drink, you know what I mean? He's very blunt and honest, but funny. Still talking so much. And then the idea of, the boat and talking about Summer, obviously.
Oh my God, when he's like, I'm going to take her to Tahiti. And he's like, the girl? He's like, no, the boat. It's named after the girl.
Did she know it's named after her? Nope.
No. So funny.
He's never even talked to Summer before in his life, and he just has it all like made up in his mind that, they're going to spend the rest of their lives together. I love that though, right? It's that innocent puppy love that we've all, you're exactly, it's not forced, right? You know what I mean? And that dynamic to me, the transition there for like, so when they get to, the party, right? You know what I mean? I love that part too, because like Seth does not want to go. And
well, it's kind of like, so when they go to, sorry to interrupt, when they go to the fashion show thing, Seth is like, welcome to the dark side.
Yeah.
And then Ryan says the same thing to him when they walk into the party. He's like, welcome to the dark side. And it's like, both of them have this like, equal weight where they know where the other one is uncomfortable, but they're still like together. Like they separate at the party, they separate at the fashion show, but they always find their way back to each other. Like, you
Yeah.
doing good? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's so cute. And it's just like, I know over time this show becomes more of a romantic relationship show, but I think what makes it work at its core is it's like a brotherly relationship show between Seth and Ryan. And it's like, even with Marissa and Summer and all these other girls, like all I want is to make sure Seth and Ryan are like being Seth and Ryan.
Exactly. And that's an important thing. Like I loved the whole dynamic of the show, right? Because the first time Summer sees Ryan,
It's like, who's
yeah,
that?
yeah, right. You know what I mean? So obviously, I love the tease early on of that, right? Because obviously it comes back and plays a lot into the fact of what happens later on in the episode. But it's those little hints that they drop throughout the episode, like you said, with the, welcome to my world, welcome to my world. I love those little things that the attention to detail that they paid throughout the episode is so magnificent and so just again, it makes the OC, it breaks down this idea of this world of these people so small that it's so easy to catch on and so easy to watch and so easy to relate to and stuff like that. And that's what I really loved. And obviously we have our first interaction with Marissa and Ryan. You already like I love that. It was she has a boyfriend, right? But
I
you
love the way they
see
set that up though, that Ryan and her are like outside and they have this instant chemistry, but it's like this tension that's like, should we keep like away from each other? Should we approach
right,
each other? And then you're like, this is great. And then Luke's giant truck just pulls up and like it cuts through the chemistry, not only because it's a giant truck, but because it's
right.
Luke, her boyfriend. You're like, who is this? What is going on? I also didn't realize they never say Luke's name the entire episode.
Do they not? That's
They
funny.
never say his name. I was
It's
like, let's get rid of him immediately.
right, exactly. And the funny thing about it is like Chris Carmack, the guy that played, he's like perfect, right?
So good.
He's such a
He,
douchebag.
you
You know what I
just want
mean?
to punch him from the minute you see him, and every time he comes on screen, I'm like, I want to punch this guy, and you don't even know him yet.
Exactly.
Like, I want to punch him
Exactly.
because I know everything he does, but I don't
Right.
know him. Like, we don't even find out his name, but I wanted to punch him. Like, oh, but him at the party, I didn't even remember. He's like trying to get some girl, and she's like, "What about Marissa?" And he like looks around. He's like, "Don't worry about it." And I'm just like,
Exactly.
"Who are you? What are you doing?"
Right. It's funny to me because like, you have that idea in this first episode, Marissa, she's a popular girl, right? You know what I mean? Obviously her and Summer, we've got the crew together, but it doesn't matter. He's got the football player style thing and stuff like he's the jock and he can get whatever he wants. And then you put him in that party scene. It's like, it doesn't matter that I'm with one of the hottest girls. I'm still going to go off and do kind of whatever I want. And then of course, when that happens, we see Ryan see that. You know what I mean? It was
I
just
love
that.
how casual that was too, because
Yep.
I didn't know that Ryan was outside, and
Right.
then
No.
like
Because
they just the
the
camera
camera
just
doesn't show
slowly pans, and you see him, and you're like, oh my god, like
exactly. That's what I was thinking about it. I'm like, God, it's so well written, but it's so well directed as well.
it
The camera
is.
angles are perfect because you're like, oh, okay, cool. They're just gonna walk off to the, to
Yeah.
the beach or whatever. But no, you slowly slide to the left and you see the camera, and then boom, there's Ryan seeing exactly what's transpiring.
And it's like he's not even the focus of where the camera is. He's just like off to the side, and you're like, oh my god, like that's what makes it go from just being like a teenage soap opera to like there was some thought and care put into the way this was crafted.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many just carelessly written teenage dramas that you watch. And the thing about it is like some of these people actually resembled high school kids. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like
Back,
I could pinpoint who they were at my high school, even though like I didn't go to a high school in Orange County. Like
right.
you
No,
still
but
understood the dynamic for every single person at that party.
right. You like watches like more recent shows like 13 Reasons Why. You watch a character that's in high school. He looks like a 26-year-old man playing an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
You could buy these characters. It's funny. One funny moment that I just randomly popped up in my head is when they're at the fashion show, when Ryan goes to get the drink, right? And he
Oh my
has
god.
his hand, and then
Kirsten walks up.
Kirsten walks up, and he's just like, "Yeah, here, this is for you," type, moment.
so funny.
It is because again, like, we know what Ryan is capable, what he is, you know what I'm saying?
But he's been around, so like
Exactly.
he's been drinking openly and never had to worry like a mom's gonna take this away from me. And then Kirsten's like, "What are you doing?
It's we already had those dad moments with Ryan, right? We had those dad moments with him and Sandy. So this was the first time we had that mom moment with Ryan as well.
I love Kirsten's first scene where he's like, "Where are you going?" Because she doesn't want him to stay, and she's like, "I'm going to lock my jewelry in the vault." And she's like, "No, I'm going to get him a toothbrush and blankets." And I'm like, it's because Kirsten is a good mom. She's just not as like out there as Sandy.
Yeah, she's less inclined to be like what Sandy is. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is very out there, and come here. I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
She's kind of reserved, and it's nice dynamic though, because it's normally the other way around, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You normally have the homie mom that's just like, come here, everybody's my son, everybody's my. Instead, this time we get Sandy to be that dad, super dad like figure. There's what else do you want to talk about for this episode before we kind of move on a little bit?
Ryan's choker. I was obsessed with it. It doesn't last very long, but I love it so much. It's so Ryan. Like at the very beginning, like he comes to this rich area and he wears like white t-shirts and a hoodie and a choker, and you're just like, that is not how any of these other kids dress, like at all. No one else is wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
I
love oh, go ahead.
I loved the setup with Jimmy, Marissa's dad. That first episode, you already see the SEC come for him, and Marissa's like, they came again. And then you already get the feeling of that Kirsten and Jimmy were together, and that everybody knows about it.
Yeah,
exactly. I also noticed that Jimmy was walking a dog named Dustin. Is the dog ever on another episode?
That's so funny because I was trying to remember, like, if we ever, I saw the dog and I was like, I don't remember this dog ever again. Ever again. Like,
I remember the horse with Alopecia.
Well, yeah.
But I don't remember them having a dog.
It's gonna be funny to rewatch it now and kind of.
I literally wrote
one
down,
of the things
they
that I'm
have a horse, or they have a dog named Dustin? ?
And then it's just like every episode, we're going to be looking for Dustin. Where's Dustin? Where's Dustin at?
So weird.
Now, before we pivot to like our favorite moment, MVP and stuff like that, I'd like to talk about that ending. You know what I mean? A little bit towards the end of the fight, obviously. I thought that was very well done. Obviously, we have the blow up between Seth and Ryan because Summer's got eyes for Ryan, and she's infatuated with Ryan. A lot of the secrets already come out, which was pretty interesting that I felt like they really just put it all on the table really, really fast for us. You know what I mean? With the boat, you know what I mean? Like,
it was like he's in love with Summer.
Exactly.
Like,
and now
Ryan was like so careful. Like even when they were going to the party, he's like, Summer asked for me. And then he's like, Summer asked for you. And Seth's like, what? Like, okay.
Exactly. And then he knew.
And then Summer's reaction where she goes, Chino, ew. It's like the best line delivery. It's so good.
She has so for Summer, she has very little dialogue really throughout the first episode. But the funny thing about it is, like, the two scenes that stand out the most with her are that moment, and of course the moment she comes in and has the big bottle with Misha Barton and her, like, they're drinking.
Oh, she's like, look what I stole. And then Marissa's like, look what I stole.
And it has this big bottle. It was fantastic. But it's funny to me because, like, that's when the whole breakdown comes, right? Summer's kind of had a few to drink, so now she's kind of on Ryan. Obviously, we have Seth come in and kind of catch that sequence, and just like any scorned teenager, whatever you want to call it, he sees, oh my God, I told you how much I love her type thing. And now you've made a move on her, like, what? And then of course, then we have, Seth kind of storms away. And then of course we have Luke being Luke, you know what I mean? When that's leading up to that scene, the tension in that scene, it's really fantastic, you know what I mean? Because you know what's about to happen, right? You know what I mean? And then again, we have that moment where I love so much, like Ryan, who doesn't have to go to Seth's rescue, right?
Yeah, like he has no say in the fight. Like he already like feel their relationship was like
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
He's just a
exactly.
guy to him. He's not anybody.
Seth called him out, called him a names. He said, "Go back to where you come from." He's exposed him as this thug,
Outsider,
yeah,
yeah.
outsider to the world. He's no longer the fake cousin from Massachusetts anymore.
Yeah.
He's the guy
Boston, Seattle,
exactly
Canada. They were everywhere.
like 4 or 5 different places. But the funny thing about that was, like, you have that moment where it kind of really ignites that friendship, right? That brotherhood from
Yeah.
Go. I thought it was so well shot, right? You know what I mean? And you know what? I'll say this too. One of my favorite things ever is that Ryan didn't come in and just beat everybody up. Can I tell? I love that, right?
Yeah.
Most shows, you're just gonna go in there. Ryan's just gonna beat up 4 guys like nothing ever happened, and he's gonna save the day. That doesn't happen here, right? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? I love when Seth kind of gets the balls to try to like he pulls that guy off of him and he's getting
It's
ready to
so
fuck.
funny.
It
It's
just
so
gets
funny
knocked
because
out.
it's like so awkward. You're like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do this. Like, I don't know you that well yet, but I know you cannot do this. Like, it's so funny. But it just shows you, like, Adam Brody was, like, the only option for Seth
Oh
Cohen.
my
Because, like,
god, yes.
it's just, like, the way he carries himself is just so Seth. And, like, in the one episode to have accomplished, like, he's so Seth is so impressive. Like,
Exactly.
it's so
You
good.
you get the whole dynamic of who he is in episode 1.
It's crazy.
Like I love it,
Like when
right?
they get back to the pool house, which is like one of my favorite moments. It's not my absolute favorite, but it's one of my favorite moments because one of my favorite parts of the entire series is like Seth and Ryan in the pool house, and that Seth always comes in, even though Ryan doesn't want him there, like
Exactly.
every morning. But like they're back in the pool house, and Seth is like, "You have my back out there, man," because he's drunk and like.
Yeah.
But it's so cute. He just like falls asleep, and Ryan is looking at him like, "This is just another night to me. This is no different than any night I've ever had."
Yep.
But this was super different for Seth. And like Ryan recognized that as Seth passed out drunk in his pool house.
Right. It meant like it was like right before it was so funny because it's like right before he passes out, he kind of professes that brotherly like moment. It's like, man, you really did have my back. It completely forgot about everything that
Yeah,
happened
they
between Summer
totally
and
disregarded the summer thing. Like it was
right.
done.
You saved my life, bro. I was getting ready to get
It's so
thrown.
cute. It's so
It,
cute.
such a great moment. All right, so let's go ahead and transition into your favorite quote of the show.
Okay, so I was really torn, but at the end of the day, I think I have to go to Welcome to the OC, bitch. It,
That's a good one.
it's part of my fun facts, but originally it's not in the script, like the original script. They added it in later. And it's so funny because I always think of it when you watch, like, think about the OC. I can always hear Luke being like, "Welcome to the OC, bitch." And it's like, who says that? Like, I don't
Luke
get it.
does. The thing about it is, Luke
Stop.
does.
So it really stayed with me. And there's a lot of great quotes, but that's what I'm going to go with.
There's one that's for me. It's like a dad moment, really, for me. Like, there's a couple of them. There really is. Like, there's so many different quotes in here. Okay, early on in the episode, Ryan says to Sandy, he goes, "Way to salt his game, Mr. Cohen," right? And
So funny.
it's so funny, but when he says it
To
when Sandy
Kirsten.
says it to Kirsten and says, "Don't salt his game, honey," I lost it because I didn't remember that second moment happening. I remember him saying, "Way to salt his game, Mr. Cohen," and it was just super funny, right? But listening to Peter Gallagher deliver that line
So good.
so nonchalantly, like he just
He
and
says
it was
it.
like exactly, and he says it, and she looks at him like, "What did you just?"
And then she's literally like asking him to define it, and he can't. Like he doesn't know what it means.
You heard it from Ryan. Like
As she's like, "You need to get rid of Ryan," he's quoting Ryan. Like
exactly.
he's like, "I'm learning from Ryan too." Like
Don't kick
so
him out. I got words coming out. You know what I mean? But yeah,
so
don't salt his game, honey. Was just the delivery. It's funny. It's quirky and it's random. For me, I loved it so much. You know what? We'll just do. What was your favorite moment of?
I had two that I was really torn between, but I think my favorite moment is Ryan and Marissa meeting. when he is like, she's like, who are you? And he's like, whoever you want me to be. Because he's trying to be all tough. But then as he's explaining, like, I stole a car, he kind of gets a little emotional about it and seems a little bummed. And I'm like, it's so Ryan, like, trying to be tough, but he's such a softie. And it's
Yep.
literally in the first 15 minutes. And I was like, this is a really great, like, interaction. I love it so much.
Oh man. Yeah, it's so hard for me, right? I don't know where I want it to go, but for me, it's got to be that final scene, right? When he takes him to Ryan's house, and Sandy kind of takes him in there, and then he kind of sees what he's working with, right? It's it's like this perfect ending to just this amazing first episode where it's like he's taking him back. He doesn't want to. Sandy knows that he wants him at his house, but he's like, you know what? Kristen wears the pants in the family. I'm going to do what she wants to do. I'm going to keep an eye on the kid the best I can. But when they get to the house, he sees how broken that home is, and he just kind of tells them, hey, you know what I mean? Like, it's, come back
He
with
doesn't
me.
even really say anything.
No.
Because Ryan goes in and he's like, Sandy's following him in. He's like, I got this. Like, you don't need to come any further. But Sandy, being Sandy, stays to make sure he's okay. And he see the doors open. There's nothing left in the house. And sad Ryan breaks me because, like I was just talking about with his Marissa moment, like, he doesn't show emotion and he tries to put on this front. And like you said, like, it's just so heartbreaking, this situation he's in, because he doesn't want to be in it, obviously. And he's a kid. What is he supposed to do? Like, I hate Dawn. I hate her. Don't make Ryan sad. Like, it makes me so angry. She's barely in the episode. Like, she picks him up from the courthouse at the beginning, and she's not even like, are you okay or anything.
No.
She's just like, how could you do this to me? And then when they cut to her at the house with Ryan, she's like, how could you get out of my house? And I'm like,
yep.
Your other son did this to him. Yep. Like, come on.
Yeah, it really kind of showcases, you have this hard, tough kid that is only hard and tough because of his upbringing, right? You know what I mean? He's dealing with the cards that he's, exactly what he says, you know what I mean? Life, the other quote that I almost picked, you have to get over the fact that life dealt you a bad hand. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Sandy says that to him, and it's hard sometimes to, get over that, right? You got this hand and you're like, oh my, like, how do I overcome this? And, he knew in his head, I feel like parts of Ryan knew that he was in this house with Sandy and Kirsten and Seth. He's like, maybe I've finally turned that corner. And then Kirsten's like, hey, I've got to have you go. And then, of course, you had the moment where he's like cooking breakfast while this is all.
Oh my God. And then she's like, is that bacon? Like, in the middle of being like, it's not personal, Ryan. She's like, is that bacon?
It's not personal. Like, get out of my house. Oh, wait, is that bacon? Oh, man. Like, it's just like that dynamic right there. It's really heartbreaking. You know what I mean? I love the kind of the switching of the shoes there. The mom's the one kind of kicking them out. The Daddy Cohen's being, Papa Bear there. MVP of the episode.
I hope we have the same one. Sandy the Eyebrows Cohen.
Yeah, 100%.
No matter what is happening, he is comedic relief. He is comforting. He is emotional. It's just, there's a reason his name is the first name on the show titles. Like, that's one of my favorite parts about this show is that, because I grew up watching this like week to week, not streaming. Like, I watched this every week. My parents really liked watching it because it wasn't just about the kids.
Yep.
Like, the parents are just as involved in all the drama, and there's like storylines for all of them, and it makes it more of like you understand their family dynamic because it revolves around all of them. It's not just like the parents are in the background like they are in every other TV show. Like,
exactly,
they're a part of the story.
Exactly. I love that so much as well because like we were talking about off the air, it's like those shows that feel so real to life. It's like Friday Night Lights. Friday Night's the same way. You know what I mean? You had the football, you had the kids, but your show was about, Coach Taylor. It was about Connie Britton. You know what I mean? It was about, it was about them as well, just as much as it was the football players and the dynamic there. Hands down, right? Sandy Cohen, Peter Gallagher.
The best.
And he opens the show with a powerful scene, right?
Ends it
with a powerful scene. You know what I mean? Opens it with that daddy-like speech to Ryan, and then he opens the door, doesn't really have to say anything other than "come with me," and it's like it's a Papa Bear's got you type moment.
Exactly.
It kind of gives you goosebumps just thinking
it's
about
really
it.
Like so funny because you're saying like at the beginning of this, like you relate so much to them, but it's like me and you did not get adopted by some wealthy family in Orange County, but like it makes me so emotional. Like he's just like the father figure that everybody wants in their life. Like they're your dad or not, like you want someone like Sandy in your life, and it's like you can tell Ryan has never had that, and it's just like it's so impactful. Like they're both such great actors and they have really good chemistry together because Ryan doesn't really respond to Sandy before the episode ends. He just kind of looks at him and it's like his tough persona, but it's also like these sad eyes, like please help me. And it's like it's so well done.
Yeah, because the dynamic in the car ride is there's not a lot of dialogue, you know what I mean? And
it's
I felt I felt that was the most important part of the ending of the episode was the very minimal dialogue that we had.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? It was just like, come with me type moment. And it was like cut scene, you know what I mean? Like it was that, you know what I mean? One thing I did want to note real quick, I've been listening to it since I think Friday, whatever. I will say, when that music hit at the beginning of the episode,
I love too that it's softly faded in. Like it's not like because it's like a pilot, so it's not this full intro. And it's like you can hear in the background, since we both watched it before, we both know it's a theme song, and like the louder it gets with him at the payphone, I was like, yeah,
exactly.
It's just so comforting, and it's the perfect theme song for this show.
Oh yeah, it's not overbearing. It's lighthearted. It's fun, and it kind of reminds you of the show. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's great. All right, so before we go, obviously, we need Kenzie's OC fun fact. What do you got for us?
Okay, I have a couple because this is the pilot.
Absolutely.
So the Coens in the original script are the Needlemans.
I'm so glad it's the Coens.
Can you imagine Sandy Needleman? It's terrible. The first actor cast was obviously Peter Gallagher. The last actor cast was Benjamin McKenzie. Chad Michael Murray was offered Ryan, I guess, and he turned it down to be on One Tree Hill.
Thank God.
Which is funny because that's like the other show you watched growing up. You either watched the OC or One Tree Hill. It's so funny. Marissa was between Olivia Wilde and Misha Barton. And then he decided that Olivia Wilde couldn't play as broken as Misha, which makes no sense because, I mean, Olivia Wilde's on the show later.
Yeah, exactly.
Rachel Bilson was originally only a recurring character. She wasn't bumped to a series regular until halfway through the first season. Oh, that's fair. Which is so weird because she's like a huge part of the story.
Yeah, I mean, she is literally who Seth is infatuated with from the moment we meet him.
Where was that going to go if she wasn't? So weird. Fox, the network, didn't like Seth at first. They thought he was too nerdy. Wanted him to be more mainstream. Seth and Ryan only hugged twice in the entire series. One of those times is in this episode when Ryan says goodbye to him. The OC inspired Laguna Beach on MTV, so we would have never had the hills or anything like that if the OC had never happened. The pilot episode is the only episode of the entire series that doesn't start with the word "the." So like the next episode is the model home.
Oh my God.
And then from there, all of them are like that.
All of
and
them.
Then
that's great.
My only other fun fact was that Welcome to the OC Bitch was not in the original script.
I love that. The thing about it is,
I remember from like before I even watched the episode, I was like, I can't wait to hear Luke yell, "Welcome to the OC." Imagine the episode without it.
Right?
That wouldn't have had as much impact if Luke hadn't said something douchey at the end. Like,
no, not at all. Like,
if he follows it up, he goes, "This is how we do it in Orange County." Like, who says that?
Like, you recognize the fact that you said the OC bitch. Like, you didn't have to follow it up with another douchey comment saying this is how we do.
Dumb. And like all of his friends have left the fight, but Luke is still talking. Like going off. Like no one's listening to you.
Exactly. Like he just likes to hear his own, voice talk. It's very comical. All right, folks, that is a wrap on the first episode of the OC podcast. This was so much fun. I am looking forward to bringing you one of these each and every week. Next week, obviously, you can watch along with us. By the time you watch this one to the next one, we will watch season 1, episode 2, and we will review it, break it down just like we did just here. If you have any questions, comments, remarks, or anything like that, hit Kenzie up on Twitter at Kenzie Vanunu. Hit myself up at Ricky Blair _. If you got fun facts, random things that you want to tell us about the show,
so many fun facts. We need
please hit us up because we're going to try to bring you some fun facts each and every episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.